You've tuned in to the show that celebrates life and all that makes it special. Sports, music, you, and of course, a nice cold beer or a glass of your favorite wine. And now, today's story.
Hey, sports fans. What would you do if you were appointed general manager of a new Major League Baseball team, handed a blank check, and given carte blanche to sign any players you wanted, regardless in which era they played? Well, in one of my conversations with Mike Essen of the Mike Essen Show, I found out that Mike is a huge sports fan. And so I posed that question to Mike. His eyes just lit up. But the moment he began to get into specifics, I stopped him. And I suggested that this would be a great topic for an episode. So here we are. But of course, I knew I had to include my co-host and our resident sports expert, Rick the Vanilla Gorilla, at the risk of being picked up with one hand and thrown in the can. So join us for the Battle of General Managers, where we each pick our dream all-time baseball team. But of course, it wouldn't be complete without hearing from you. So reach out to us with your choices, and if you want to compare your teams with ours, let us know. And now, here's Rick, Mike, and yours truly as we live out our baseball fantasies.
Huzzah!
Hey, everybody, this is Ralph, Rantin' Ralph. That's what they call me, because I rant. I just rant. And we have a great show. Welcome to Life, Sports, Music, and Beer. And let me tell you what this show is all about. But before I do that, let me bring in my co-host, Rick the Vanilla Gorilla. Rick, say hey. Hey, man.
What's up?
What's up, right? You like that? And we have a special guest today, and I hope he's on the screen. I think he is. South Florida's conservative voice, Mike Essen from the Mike Essen Show. Mike, you there?
I'm here. It's a pleasure, Rick. Pleasure, Ralph. Thank you. This is my kind of program.
It's awesome, dude. We're going to have a great time today. Folks, let me tell you what this is about. Life, sports, music, and beer. You know, we were talking, all of us as friends, and we've just realized that there's so much junk out there, so much crap, and it's all the politics and all that stuff. We have forgotten what it's like to just have a good time. Everybody's been locked up for 2 years. Rick, you've been locked up for 2 years, buddy.
Yes, in my cage, man.
They got
the gorilla's ready to go.
The wife finally let you out. She let you out.
Hey, she always gives me a pass. It's this COVID bullshit that doesn't give me a pass. But
what she does? So she throws some peanuts at you or some shit like that.
That's right.
Right?
She
You're
goes,
good to go, right?
She goes, get the hell out of the house. I'm done with you. She doesn't want to be on lockdown with me this long. I promise you.
I don't blame you, dude. I don't blame her.
She is not a sports person. So 24 hours of sports with me, I'll watch anything. And she just wants to leave the damn room. So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, look, and Mike, just so you guys that don't know, if you've never listened to the Mike Essen Show, you want to tune into that. Mike, is there like a special, what do? They go in and just put in Mike Essen Show? How's that work?
There's several ways you could do that. You go to Mike Essen, MikeEssен, radioshow.com, which will take you directly to the archives. Or you can go to blogtalkradio.com/Mike Essen Show. And then I'll take you directly there and you can press play or listen to any archived show I've had.
Awesome. Go, folks, you're going to love his show. His show is just awesome. It's an awesome show. Okay, so listen, once again, welcome to Life, Sports, Music, and Beer. A nice cold beer, folks. It always comes in handy. So here's what we're going to do today. And hopefully if you're listening today, you might want to kick back and play along with us, come along with us. And if you don't agree with us, send us an email. If you agree with us, send us an email. Tell us what you're thinking. We're going to play general manager today. That's the deal. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to choose, each one of us is going to choose a couple of things. Number one, we're going to choose, if you had, just think about this, Rick and Mike, if you had the opportunity, you were handed a blank check and they would say to you, I want you to build a Major League Baseball team. You can pick and choose any player you want from any era. All right. You're going to choose 2 players from every position. So that's 2 third basemen, shortstop, first base, catcher, 5 starting pitchers, 2 relievers, and 6 outfielders. They don't have to be specific, left, right, center field, doesn't matter. Just 6 outfielders, okay, and a couple of DH. And you can choose a manager at the end if you want. Okay, so we're going to kick this off, and we're going to start off. We have a guest, Mike. So he's going to kick this off. Mike, let's start off with, if you had to choose one player one guy that you would want to build your entire team around, who would that be?
I would say Ricky Henderson, because he could steal bases. He was great in the outfield. He's not the GOAT, in my opinion. I'll get to that later, the greatest of all time, but he can change the game. He's a game changer, and he was one of the all-time greats. And he also helped it was inspirational, made his other players play better. So for all the qualities he had, I would take the greatest base runner of all time, who had the most runs ever, by the way, Ricky Henderson.
Interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Rickster, what do you say?
Well, this one will be controversial because he just got denied Hall of Fame again, and that was his last attempt because of the steroid era. But the most nastiest hitter I've ever seen on the planet, Barry Bonds. When you look at his numbers and his power numbers, and I can't tell you how many times that I saw that man walked with the bases loaded. Now, when you're giving up a run to pitch around a batter, that tells me the fear of God is in you. Do I like his off the field or locker room stuff? Not really, but I know he can produce. Bottom line is he was the most tenacious hitter in my lifetime that I've ever seen. And we'll get to his numbers later, but I would center it around my cleanup or 3-hole Mr. Bonds.
Wow, that's an interesting choice. So what I'm gathering from you two guys is we're not allowing any of these controversies, the steroid use, the gambling and all that. We're not taking that into account. Mike, is Rick?
I do take it into account, actually.
You do,
but I do, yes.
Yeah.
Mike does, and honestly, if this wasn't for the show, I would too. As far as my moral high ground, as far as me playing the game, so sense. I would. But you know what? It's kind of like with the Aaron Rodgers thing right now. When you vote for MVP, I don't give a shit what he does off the field. What does he do for my business?
Okay, let me answer that question. I understand I think you make a valid point, Rick. This is about what he does on the field, not off the field.
Yeah.
I think O.J. Simpson belongs to the Hall of Fame, not Barry Bonds. It's a very controversial and bold statement.
It really is. No, it makes sense, Mike. But go ahead.
It makes sense because O.J. did nothing on the field. Neither did Jim Brown, who was charged with rape, the greatest running back of all time. That's off the field material. We have to ignore that.
Sure.
Now, if you take PEDs,
yep,
you went from 20 home runs to like 50. Babe Ruth had hot dogs and beer. He did it. Mays did it.
No, I get your argument already because I would back you 1,000%. Here's my argument with that. Shame on Major League Baseball then for not testing. You opened that Pandora's box. In fact, you wanted it. Major League Baseball needed it. They needed Sosa, Bonds, all of them to look like defensive ends and hit the ball 500 feet because they were losing viewership. Let's not kid ourselves. It was a business, and they made that decision. So, yeah, I'm with you on that, Mike, 100%.
That's interesting because it's all about leadership, and they're a bunch of pansies as far as I'm concerned. These commissioners, they're a bunch of pansies.
They're puppets. They're puppets. Let's be honest, they're puppets.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. So that leads me right into my pick, because if I got to build a team around someone, I want someone who's respected by their peers and who has tremendous leadership ability. And I make no qualms about this. If I had to pick one guy to be Derek Jeter, you knew that was coming, right, Rickster?
Yeah. Well, two reasons. One, he's a Yankee, so that was a given. I was about to make a side bet with Mike for $5. Like, watch, it's a Yankee. I promise you that.
We'd agree, so I wouldn't lose anything. And you wouldn't.
Yeah. And I can't yell at him because Jeter's a Michigan guy. He would have went to the University of Michigan, so I was fine with that pick anyways. But he's a great character guy and a great player. He's the captain. I mean,
So you
he inspired other players. That's true. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because he's from Michigan, Rick, is that why?
No. He went to the University of Michigan. He was going to the University of Michigan.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, that's not the only reason. The reason is he's an all-around player and he's a captain and he's a leader.
He really is. And not only that, he's an example. What you were talking about, Mike. This guy on the field, off the field, there was never a word of controversy of this guy.
No,
he knew what to say, when to say it. I mean, the guy was just an incredible role model for kids. And I look at that. If my kids were growing up in baseball, I want to make sure that they're looking up a lot of these guys that are, they're heroes.
Right.
A bunch of them are bums. You know, I want to be able to say, yeah, you want to emulate somebody? You want to play baseball? That's the guy to emulate. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of them. Anyway, that's my choice. Yeah. All right. So we got that out of the way. We're going to build our team. Okay. So I'm going to go right into it because I was the last one to choose Derek Jeter. So he's my first choice at shortstop. Let's start at third base. All right. We're going to pick 2 third basemen. This is a tough one. I mean, they're all tough because there's such great players out there. I mean, I got a whole list here. You know, I got Brooks Robinson, George Brett, Paul Molitor, Ron Santo, Edgar Martinez, although he was basically a DH.
A DH, yeah.
Right. But he, you know, that's how he started, was at third base. Adrian Beltre, Wade Boggs, Chipper Jones, Eddie Matthews, Mike Schmidt. I mean, you could go on and on. So here's my point. Depending on the kind of team that I'm building, what am I looking for? And the way I see my roster, I see these guys. I got so many bombers out there, guys that are going to hit the hell out of that ball. I want to concentrate a little bit on defense. So I'm going to go my first pick at third because there's 2. My first pick is Brooks Robinson.
As soon as you said defense, I knew that was the answer.
You knew that was coming. Yeah. And then my second choice at third base would be George Brett. This guy was tenacious, and I couldn't stand him. I remember when he played against the Yankees, remember that Tar situation? Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't stand him. But you know what I loved about him? His passion.
Oh, yeah.
This guy, he stepped on the field, and he was ready to play. He ran out every single ground ball. Anyway, those are my 2 choices. So let me see who's next. We're backtracking here. Rick, you're next.
Okay. Third base, I'll go with OU's finest, Ohio University's finest, Mr. Schmidt, Mike Schmidt, 267 career hitter, but 548 home runs, 1595 on the RBIs. But what's funny is he had over 2,200 hits too. So not just power, he was a hitter too. But my second is definitely the hitter's hitter, Wade Boggs, back in the day, 328 career. Only 118 home runs, 1,000 RBIs, 1,014, but 3,010 hits total.
Hitting machine.
That lefties, I've always said this, lefties come out of the womb with the perfect swing. Righties try to emulate it by the end of their life. And it's hard to do because my son's a lefty. I mean, it's the perfect swing. It's the perfect swing coming out. So those are my 2.
That's excellent. And, you know, he can hit to all fields. This guy.
Yes. Backside hitter, one of the best backside hitters in the history of the game by far.
Right. Any comments on that, Mike?
I think Wade Boggs was an interesting choice because they had him in the Red Sox not be a power hitter, but he could have hit home runs if he really wanted to.
Right.
We'll just never know what he could have done. And I think that makes it interesting.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Okay. So Mike, third base.
Mike Schmidt and Brooks Robinson, I'll mention why I picked both of them. Mike Schmidt was Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell in the same player as third base. He had power, he had speed, he had the 548 home runs, and he had 10 Gold Gloves. He was the architect of the 1980 Phillies championship team to prove that he was MVP that year. I think he is the greatest third baseman of all time. Brooks Robinson, 16 Gold Gloves, and by the way, he had 2,800 and something hits.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he couldn't hit the ball. He just wasn't a power hitter.
Right.
But he could have made the 3,000 hit club if he stayed 5 years longer. I think those are by far the 2 best. I think George Brett, Wade Boggs, those are great choices. I think Chipper Jones is a great choice, but I think that Schmidt and Robinson top the list.
Let me ask both of you a question. Do we put A-Rod as a shortstop or as a third baseman?
Sorry.
Shortstop.
He was best as a shortstop. So.
Right. So they moved him late. That's why I'm saying you could make an argument in power numbers for him at third and say he played there, but I'm with you guys. He was a shortstop.
Yeah, in his prime. Yeah, he was a shortstop.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the list could go up. Paul Molitor. You guys
love it. You love him. Yes.
That guy was incredible. Yes. So good choices. And Mike, I like the way you played the diplomat there. You chose one of his choices. And you chose one of mine.
When you're the last one,
that's right.
Okay, you can have it.
That's right.
I'm the essential diplomat.
Tremendous
that's
diplomacy. Right. Unbelievable. Okay, let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. We'll be right back.
You've got enough on your plate. Why go through the hassle of designing your own business cards, brochures, and other marketing materials online when NT Productions can do it for you, free of charge? Plus, we'll beat any advertised price by at least 10%. Don't waste your precious time designing and ordering your marketing material. let us do it for you. All you need to do is tell us what you're thinking, and we'll take care of it from there. No design fees, no hassle, and delivery straight to your door. So, let us handle your marketing materials. That's what we do, and we do it better than anyone else, and for less. Visit nkeyproductions.com or call 305-697-0662. That's nkeyproductions.com, 305-697-0662. And use your time to build your business, not your marketing material. NKey Productions, your one-stop, hassle-free personal printing and marketing professionals, where excellence is our only goal.
I like to start with the shortstops at this point. My choices go way back and not so far back. Honus Wagner is the best shortstop of all time. He was a great defensive player. He was in the 3,000 hit club. He hit like 338. He was overshadowed by Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth in those days, or he'd get more. He would absolutely have more recognition. Ozzy Smith is a surprise pick, and he makes my list too. The Wizard of Oz was as good, almost as good as Brooks Robinson was. He had 13 Gold Gloves. So this doesn't make him better, but he's one of the most exciting players. I love watching him. And he also had about 2,500 hits. He wasn't a bad hitter. He just wasn't a power hitter. Those are my picks.
Yeah.
Let's see. Guys will be.
All right. So you got Ozzy Smith and Honus Wagner.
Yes.
The stats on them are incredible.
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely.
Anybody who watched Ozzy at shortstop, the guy was a magician.
Oh,
He's a
yeah.
magician. The stuff that he did was just unbelievable. And I'm a huge St. Louis fan. I mean, back then I remember cheering for them. Okay. Good choices. Real good choices.
Very.
All right, buddy. Rick, go ahead.
Okay, well, as far as best shortstops ever, I put Cal Ripken Jr. just as far as the Iron Man and what he did. As far as power hitting shortstop, obviously I'm looking at offensive numbers, but he wasn't a bad defenseman. He's just a big defensive shortstop. That was a big guy. 276 lifetime, 431 home runs, 1,695 RBIs. 3,184 hits. I mean, 3,184 hits a ton. Now, my second one, I wanted to just shed light on him because I think, is he the top two of all time? No. But what I think is in the market he was in, he could have been if he was with anybody else. And we just talked about his best friend at third, Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, if you remember Yount in the 80s.
Of course.
Fantastic player, 285 lifetime, 251 home runs, 1,400 hits, 1,400 RBIs, 3,142 hits. Solid player, both of them, him and Molitor, but you're in Milwaukee. I mean, you weren't surrounded by a ton in that lineup. You had another one, I think it was Cecil Cooper at first. They had some players, just not enough to protect him or have him put out the breakout numbers, but I loved those two. So that's the two I had.
Good choices. You can't go wrong,
picks.
right? You can't go wrong.
Robin Yount, by the way, old trivia, had more hits than anybody in the 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's good.
See, I knew Mike's an 80s guy. With his picks, me and him are on the same wavelength there. These are the guys we grew up watching.
Yeah.
Awesome picks, dude. Awesome picks.
Cal Ripken was great. I mean,
yes. Another role model too that we were talking about. You can't find a thing on that man.
How about Honus? He didn't drink or smoke.
Yeah, truth.
Yeah, fantastic.
I wish I had one of his cards right about now. I know that.
That's right.
We'll split one.
Yes.
Honus Wagner. He played from 1897 to 1917, something like that. So
yes,
he played partly in the dead ball era, right? Dead ball era was.
I think the whole dead ball era.
Yeah, the entire dead ball era.
He was a great defensive player too, and he was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of young people don't, they don't go back. They don't study this. Some of those players were just, it's just incredible. You read the stats on this guy. Honus Wagner, you mentioned it, 3,420 hits, 1,732 RBI. The guy was a machine.
Yeah. What people don't realize too, think about these guys back in the day. They weren't making money. So these were farm boys that had to work after the season was over. They're not in weight rooms all day getting stronger. And look at the lumber they used. If you've never been to the Louisville Slugger Museum, go and feel Babe Ruth's bat and tell me if you could have the bat speed to hit it out. These guys were farm strong, country boys.
You're absolutely
Rick, you make
right.
an excellent point. I want to say that imagine if they had the training they had even 20 years ago.
Imagine the technology. Exactly.
Yeah.
1000%.
Yeah. What about the baseballs? Do you think back then, I mean, there was
Those were rags. They were rags.
Yeah,
they were rags. Yeah.
Yeah. So the ball was dead, basically dead.
Dead balls.
Compared to today, right?
But with bigger parks. I mean, think about the polo
That's
grounds
true.
and everything. I mean,
That's true.
yeah. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm not going to belabor this. My choice, of course, you guys know Derek Jeter is number one. I think I believe he's the greatest shortstop that ever lived, and not because of everything that he did. Look what he did: 310 average, 3,465 hits, 260 homers, and 1,311 RBIs. And that was not his job, by the way. His job was not power hitting. His job was to get on base. He would hit the top of the lineup. This guy was just incredible, and defensively, what's your take on this? I keep hearing, I read articles about, well, Derek Jeter was not that good defensively.
he was above average, but he was not a superstar at short.
Okay.
He wasn't Ozzy Smith, but he was good.
Who was Ozzy Smith?
Not
Brooks
a lot
Robinson
of people.
is third.
Yeah.
That Brooks Robinson and Cal Ripken is short.
That's
maybe
exactly
That's
right.
it.
Yeah.
You see, so you know what my feeling is, that they can't find anything else to talk about Jeter. Negative.
Yeah.
So they got to
find something. Yeah, that's
something.
truth. That's true.
Now, my second choice, Rick, you were going to say something.
I was going to ask Mike about Alan Trammell, what he thought about him at short. I still think an underrated shortstop too. As far as a power hitter back then too, at shortstop, hitting 30 bombs in the 80s at shortstop was unheard of. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that
I think
out
one of the elements why he wasn't as well known as he played for a small market team.
Yeah. Yep.
Sort of like in football, Drew Brees had to get a lot of yards to get known because he played for Dallas and the Giants. Alan Trammell is Drew Brees is not as good, but Drew Brees
Right.
baseball.
Now, Michael liked this, and he knows this, but this will never happen again in the history of baseball, is a shortstop and second baseman come in together and retire together, same team. That's why they have the most double plays turned as a tandem. They came in the league together, went out together in Detroit. Yeah, with Whitaker. Yep.
Lou Whitaker was great. I remember him.
Yeah.
Lance Parrish, that was a great team.
Now, before I give you my second choice,
sure.
Because you guys have been mentioning, Alex Rodriguez is in the mix.
Oh yeah,
I don't count.
He's in play.
Why won't you count him?
He was a steroid king.
Because Mike took them out of the equation.
I'm telling you, my view is if you took a magic wand and played baseball, I'm not saying you would of course have the stats for A-Rod or Barry Bonds or Rafael Palmero or Roger Clemens had.
Sure.
But if you play with hot dogs and beer, Ozzie Smith did it clean. Otis didn't even smoke or drink.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I think you have to consider that. I think it's an asterisk.
I'm with you.
I hear you. Now, Alan Trammell, I got him on my list. You mentioned Barry Larkin. Nobody talks about Barry Larkin.
I love Barry Larkin.
Guy was incredible.
The Red Machine. I
love Barry Larkin.
That's right. Robin Yount. You mentioned Robin Yount. That guy was incredible.
I have Robin. Yep.
But here's one that you guys totally overlooked, and I believe never won a World Series, was never in a World Series. Ernie Banks.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Cub.
Mr. Cub.
Mr. Cub. You see, these are guys that just fall by the wayside, and he was quiet. He went about his job. He didn't cause any controversy. There was nothing. Incredible ball player. Incredible. But my second choice, based on the team that I can see myself, building, will be Cal Ripken. The guy was just an absolute animal. The Iron Man. Because I look at today, these ball players, they got a headache.
Oh, they're so bad.
They're a bunch of wussies, man.
Yeah.
That's
it's baseball. Let's be honest. It's baseball.
Yeah, you're right.
Can you pull something? Sure. Running. I got that part.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, it's baseball, man.
Except if you watch players like Ichiro or Andrew Jones, the defensive greats, they were sliding and wrist injury to get that ball.
Yep.
So the players today, that's just a generation ago, they could learn from them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a totally different generation. Well, the guaranteed contracts and stuff. They don't. A lot of these guys don't care anymore. They just go on. They do what they have to do.
Yep.
Not what they I can't. That takes me into the next category, into second base, because I'm going to choose first this time.
Okay.
And there was somebody that I left out. I'll just mention some of the there's Rod Carews and Joe Morgan, or Roberto Alomar, Robinson Cano.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, you remember Charlie Gehringer? You don't remember him?
Mhm.
1924 to 1942. Incredible stats: 1,400 RBI, 320 average, 2,839 hits. The guy was he was incredible. He was incredible. But it's basically the dead ball era. So what the heck? Eddie Collins, Ryan Sandberg.
I was going to mention him. I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah.
That's probably the best power hitting second baseman I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Guy was incredible. And then, of course, you got Jackie Robinson. I think, Jackie Robinson is more noted, in my opinion, because he broke the color barrier. What he did, the statement that he made, and he was a great ball player, but he was only around for a few years.
11.
Was it 11 years?
11.
There you go. You know more about this than I do. So, I'm not sure if that.
He's going to be one of mine.
Oh, really?
You kind of.
I'll surprise you.
And then I got Roger Hornsby in there.
Yes,
in the mix. I just
absolutely,
throw that out. But the kind of team that I'm building with the power that I'm going to have, I'm going to pick two guys. First of all, I'm going to pick who I believe is one of the greatest punch hitters, one of the greatest, just like here's Wade Boggs, Rod Carew.
Oh, yes.
The guy was a
Great
machine.
choice.
Yes.
The guy was a machine.
Yes.
And my second choice, not second, I'm not sure who I would pick first, but I've got those two, is Joe Morgan. The guy was a leader. Little Joe Morgan. I love to watch him play because he hustled I remember watching him. He would hustle every single play. The guy was incredible. And of course, part of the Big Red Machine. I'm sure if that influences me a little bit, but I love the guy. Great personality and just a wonderful spark plug. Okay, so those are my two choices, Derek Jeter and Cal Ripken. Now we move on to what? Mike, floor is yours.
We're at second base, Mike.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yep, you're there.
Okay, so it's your choice now. Second, is it second base?
Second base, yeah. You just repeated your shortstops.
Oh,
but yeah.
Okay, all right.
Who were your two second basemen then?
My two second basemen are Rod Carew and Joe Morgan.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Mike, second baseman.
My turn?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Rogers Hornsby is first. Here's a guy who's the most underrated player ever. And I'll mention the second most later.
Yeah.
This guy had over 300 home runs in the dead ball era, unheard of. He had over 400 balls twice, had a 358 average lifetime. The Raja, as they called him, he played a long time ago, but you can't exclude everybody who did. Some of the greatest players ever were then. He is one of them. He's one of the 10 greatest players to ever play. And I am taking Jackie Robinson. For the time he played, because to exclude him, you'd have to exclude players like Sandy Kofax and many others who played about the same amount of time, or Barry Sanders in football. I mean, he's one of the greatest running backs.
Right.
He had the 5 tools. He ran the ball. He hit the ball well. He hit for power, hit for speed, and he was a great defensive player. Rogers, Hornsby, and Jackie Robinson.
Nice.
But let me challenge you on Jackie Robinson. I think he was a great player. I look at his stats here, and you're talking. He played 11 years, 734 RBI. That's 70 RBI, less than 7.
Yeah, 70. But he wasn't the cleanup man.
He was. I understand that. I understand.
He's a top of the order hitter.
100. Yeah, I understand that too. 137. Did have 1,518 hits. Average is 311. That's a good choice.
Another guy I want to mention that people overlook is Napoleon LaJoy.
LaJoy, yes, I've got him on my list. Nap LaJoy.
Nap LaJoy. Yep.
Yeah, great player. Let me tell you something. Look at the stats on him. 338 average, 3,243 hits, 82 home runs, and 1,599 RBI. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Of course, that was in the dead ball era.
Yeah.
So can you imagine what he would have done now?
Rogers Hornsby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. All right. So that's
300 dead ball era. Go ahead.
Did we cover second base already? Rick, did you do second base?
No, I haven't done mine, but you both hit mine. So Joe Morgan's number one for me. 271 lifetime, 268 home runs, 1,100 RBIs, over 2,570 hits. He did everything right on the Red Machine. You have to have that inside. Just a leader. I think he would be considered him and Bench the leaders of that team, wouldn't you? I mean, Joey Morgan was quiet, but he was a leader.
And Pete Rose.
Yeah. So I have him and Jackie Robinson. If Jackie Robinson was in today's era, instead of going through the shit he had to go through and then play a game, his numbers would have ballooned through the roof. You got to understand, the guy had death threats on him every night. I mean, come on. And to still be
so well,
a 313 average, 141 home runs, 761 RBIs, and 1,560 hits in 11 years.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact we didn't mention in 11 years, he had 200 steals in 11 years. The guy was a beast, absolute beast for what he had to go through. So
let me throw this out at both of you here. Do you think it makes any difference as to who you're surrounded with on a team? For example, Joe Morgan. Had Joe Morgan been, because he was part of the Big Red Machine, he was surrounded by pure, just talent.
Hall of Famers at every position.
You know, Dave Concepcion as shortstop. The guy was a magician with the glove.
Yeah.
You know, you had Tony Perez at first base. The guy was an animal. You know, who was the center fielder? The guy, Geronimo? Was it Geronimo?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was, he was just does it make any difference who you're surrounded? Let's say if Joe Morgan would have been on, let's say like the Chicago Cubs when Ernie Banks was there.
Right.
Would he have stood out the way that he stood out? In your
Yes.
opinion? You think so?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because unlike football, which is a complete team sport, we rely on the line, you rely on the quarterback. Baseball is a sport of individual talent primarily. And most baseball players don't play for the same team their whole career. Like your friend Al Kaline, Rick, who made it clear he would only play for Detroit his whole career, which I wish we had more of today.
1,000%. Yes, I love that. And like I told you about Whitaker and Trammell, I was fortunate to follow a team like that who had players that stayed with one team their whole careers. You know, going to hockey when I was growing up too, Mike, with Steve Yzerman, another example for you. I mean, I just got lucky. I didn't have to buy multiple jerseys. I could buy one and be fine with it.
That's right. That's a good point. Good point. Boy, you guys make it tough. You know, you guys almost got me going here with this Jackie Robinson thing. I got to think about this. But I love, you know, Rod Carew was just.
He had such a nice swing. Gosh, he had a good swing.
Inside
he
out.
He had 390
inside
in
out
1 year. He almost hit 400 in 1977.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stayed inside the ball so perfectly. It was insane. Yeah.
That was incredible. Okay, Rick, so let's move on to first base. Your choice.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. I love this one because the two guys I have on here are probably the two best right-handed hitters, maybe in the history of baseball, to combine power and average. Pujols, not so much at the end of his career right now, but 297 lifetime. I mean, 677 home runs, 2,150 RBIs, and 3,300 hits. You know, that's a career, man. And arguably the best right-handed hitter, but I'm biased because you know who I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Miggy. I mean, 55 years it had been since a Triple Crown winner, and Miguel Cabrera stepped in and did it.
Yeah.
Yasrevsky was the last. Lifetime 310 hitters. My opinion, should have retired 2 years ago, and his numbers would have looked a lot better. He's staying in too long right now, in my opinion. 310, 502 home runs, 1,800 RBIs, and 2,900. He'll be at 3,000 next year in hits. Again, I heard a story about that man that cracked me up by one of his hitting coaches, and he said he sets up pitchers for later at bats, meaning he'll look foolish on a pitch during an at bat early in a game to set them up for a bigger situation so they come back with that pitch later in a game. The dude is mentally great. If you've ever watched JD Martinez take notes in the dugout, Miguel does this. Miguel plays with pit. He's like a killer whale with the seal. That's just how he is in his prime. So that's who my two are.
All right. So what are they again? Albert?
Pujols and Cabrera.
And Pujols and Cabrera. Okay.
Yep.
All right, Mike, on to you.
Lou Gehrig is my first choice. So back to the Iron Horse, the man that's subject to pride of the Yankees. He had MLS, and if he didn't, he had like so many consecutive games and he had a great bat. He had a throw over 300 batting average, with a 340 batting average lifetime, and could have had the Triple Crown if he would have stayed longer. But he was a leader. He was incredible. He was one of the 10 best players to ever play. One of your players is my choices too, Albert Pujols for number 2.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about it. I agree, should have never left St. Louis. But when he went to the Dodgers, notice this. After a mediocre career, better than mediocre career at Los Angeles with the Angels, he went to the other side of town and he started smacking home runs again.
Yeah.
I mean, for those numbers, he was voted Player of the Decade in the 2000s. I love Eddie Murray. I love Miguel Cabrera. This guy, though, and Pete Rose, I think, played first base for some of the
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
these two, I think, take the cake. Lou Gehrig's number 1 in my book.
Yeah, but Pete Rose wasn't a first baseman. He just played first base once in a while.
No, he
right?
played first base and
player.
third.
He
Yeah.
played third base,
Yeah.
outfield. Yeah.
He's utility. He was a utility kind of.
Boy, I'll tell you, you guys, you make a strong case, but I don't think you didn't even mention some of these guys. You're going to be a surprise at my first pick, but let me just mention, I'll throw some names out. Jimmy Fox, Hank Greenberg, Willie McCovey, McCovey.
Yep.
That was an animal.
Giant.
Harmon Killebrew. I would watch Harmon Killebrew hit home runs with one hand. He would swing he would literally let go of that top hand and just with one hand, he would the guy was an animal. Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt.
Yeah, Big Hurt. Love him.
You know, one guy that I can't stand, but I got to admit, David Ortiz, big time player. You know, I mean, he was there, the big moments, and the guy was clutch.
A beast.
He was a beast. But I agree with Lou Gehrig. He's one of my top 2. I agree with that. But here's one player you guys totally forgot to mention, and I believe he was one of the greatest hitters of all time. Stan the Man Musial.
Yeah.
What happened, guys? What happened?
I have in a different position.
Well, that's okay.
What
Well, that's why we live in America. This is awesome. But let me just give you some stats on him. 331 average, 3,630 hits, 475 home runs, and 1,951 RBI. And defensively, the guy was incredible. Mike?
One of the 10 greatest players to ever play.
How the hell did you not pick him then? He's one of the 10.
I'll answer your question. I have him in another position. I see him as more in another position than I see him in first base.
I got
you don't really disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. You see a good comeback. Well, you're
it's
on
like
your
Robin
game
Yount
tonight.
2 positions. You know, I mean, it just depends where you rank them.
Yeah, you're on your game tonight there, Mikey boy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're not going to catch us, Ralph.
Shit. I'm trying. It's frustrating. Okay.
Curious to know who Rick has.
Okay. So we move on now to a position that I know is just very near and dear to Rick because it's, he played catcher. And I got to tell you something, folks. I've never played catcher, but I know like Jim Mancilla, who we interviewed, and you'll be hearing about his life. He was the Italian Olympic baseball coach for years. Incredible life story. He was a catcher also, and he's got 2 bum knees. He's got 2 knee replacements. I mean, these catchers really go through hell, and I believe they're the captain of the team. So let's talk about catcher Rick. I'm going to throw this over to you. And no, let's start with Mike.
Let's go with Mike, but I wanted to bring something up real quick, sure. Mike, and you'll love this too. Out of Major League Baseball, out of the managers, 11 are former catchers, by far the highest position of it. There's a reason for that. There really is a reason for that. Yeah. And like I told you, and I explained to Ralph, we're the only player on the field that sees the ball in the entire field at all times. Our back is never to it. So it's just a cerebral position. I call it the quarterback of baseball because you are. I mean, you're yelling out orders, you're yelling out alignments, everything. So I thought that was interesting. The next, I think, highest position is like 5 outfielders for managers in the MLB. So it's not even close. So sorry about that. Go ahead, Mike. With
That's
your
great insight. Great insight.
Okay, the first pick is very easy for me. It's Johnny Bench. This Sparky Anderson quote made a great quote. Don't embarrass any catcher by comparing him to Johnny Bench. He had 10 Gold Gloves. He was number 2 all time in home runs with catchers. Mike Piazza was first, who did not make my list because he wasn't that good on defense, but so he would be a good choice. But Johnny Bench also had the most put outs. He was the GOAT of catchers. Yogi Berra is my second pick, and I was thinking of Campanella. I was thinking of the Pudge Rodriguez. And Mickey Cochran even crossed my mind. But Yogi Berra is rarely struck out. He was the captain of one of the greatest dynasties of all time, and he had something like 24 All-Star games. Bench and Bear are my picks.
Solid.
Wow. Yeah, they are
Very solid. Yeah.
Now here's Rick. It's your turn, right?
Sure. Yep.
Go right ahead.
All right. Well, I can't disagree with the man. I mean, this is one of those positions that if you don't have Johnny Bench at number one, you don't know baseball. I mean, it's just that clear. It's a runaway. And he's right about Yogi Berra, but I did go with Pudge as my second. Love the way that guy hit. Fantastic defensively, just a rocket. His pop time was insane as far as his release. And an absolute wall behind the dish. And you have to be a wall behind the dish. It equals runs when you give up bags on wild pitches. So those are my two. And to go to Mike's point, but one of the ones I'm following now is that Molina is insane. And Perez from Kansas City doesn't get enough love. That dude is insane. One of the best bad ball hitters I've ever seen in my life because he never takes a pitch. The dude hits stuff that is nowhere near the strike zone. But defensively, man, I love watching that guy play.
Yeah. You talk about Molina.
Perez.
Oh, Perez.
I love Perez from Kansas City. I love that guy.
Huh. I haven't
It's a
seen
small
him
market team thing again.
Yeah.
It is.
If he played for the Yankees or the Dodgers, you hear his name all the time, which maybe he will play.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully he gets a look. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got to guys, I think we're basically on the same page. I chose Johnny Bench and Yogi Berra.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody even comes close to those guys. Now, with that said, there's some names you forgot to mention. Honorable mention, Gary Carter. Gary Carter was
fantastic. Yes.
And he had a lousy supporting cast. Buster Posey hasn't been around long enough, and his stats are okay, but Ivan Rodriguez, you mentioned him, Roy Campanelli, Carlton Fisk. You guys forgot to mention Carlton
Fisk was great.
I mean, this guy was just awesome. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, he was awesome when he played for the White Sox, who wasn't even a good team.
That's
72, right. Crazy number for a player, too.
Then you got Josh Gibson, Mickey Cochran, which I know, Mike, you mentioned, and of course, Molina. Yadier Molina, to me, that guy's got an arm like, I don't think there's been another arm like his since Johnny Bench.
Right.
I don't want to compare him.
I agree.
I agree with that.
The Pudge, not even the Pudge. No,
not even Pudge. Not even Pudge. So, yeah, we agree on that. Yogi Berra and Johnny Bench. Now, I got Mike Piazza I was going to put him up there. I got him third on the list. And the reason Mike Piazza is very good friends with Jim Mansilla.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I know sooner or later he's going to come on the show.
Yeah.
But
I already told him I didn't think he was a good defensive player at all. I mean, he worked at it, but let's be honest. Me and Mike know this. He's a DH. If he was in the AL, he'd be on our list for DHs right now. That's just how, that's where he belonged, that or first.
You're absolutely, he could hit the hell of that ball, dude.
Long swing, but it was so powerful.
Yeah,
man.
Guy was incredible.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have the pleasure of interviewing him soon, Rick.
Yeah. Cool. You know who we forgot, Mike, and you'll love this call. Tony Pena. Remember him with Boston?
Yeah.
Excellent.
When he used to lay down in that stance and throw off his knees, I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah. And there's a couple of Jorge Posada. We never even mentioned him.
Truth. Yep.
Great hitting for bases.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Which was rare.
He wouldn't be up there with those guys.
No. That'd be a whole separate category. I mean, these guys were all around players. If you're looking for offensive catchers, they usually aren't that great at defense. So that's why you look for the overall, like a Bench and a Pudge and Yogi. So yeah.
There you go. All right, let's take a quick break for one of our sponsors, and we're going to come back and we're going to do the outfield, the DH, and the starting pitchers and relief pitchers. And then if you guys want to choose a manager, well, that's cool too. Quick break.
Looking for a music teacher? Well, look no more. Music Lesson Pros has everything you need. We're your one-stop music teacher locator. And whatever your age, whatever instrument you're looking for, including voice, we'll help you find the perfect music teacher. And the good news is, we'll do it absolutely free. All you need to do is either click the button or fill out the form below. That's all. We'll do the rest. First, we'll reach out to you to make sure we know exactly what you're looking for and answer your questions. Second, we'll assign you the music teacher that best fits your needs. And third, we'll schedule a free introductory lesson. That's it. After the free lesson, You can start your lessons or simply walk away. No obligations. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead. Let us do the work for you. Get started right now by either clicking the button or filling out the form below, and let Music Lesson Pro get you or your loved ones a step closer to playing that favorite instrument or singing those favorite songs.
Hey, welcome back to Life, Sports, Music, and Beer. And we're here with South Florida's conservative voice, Mike Essen. Thank you for coming on the show tonight.
My pleasure.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine. And my host, Rick the Vanilla Gorilla.
Yes,
I try to stay
sir.
away. Yeah, I try to stay away from Rick because if he sits on me, he'll kill me.
Yes, possibly.
Yeah, I'm 5'7" on a good day with my hair spiked.
And I'm
I have-
6'5", 270 pounds.
Yeah.
6'4", so we're not that far apart.
Nope, we're not.
Good God. I'm sandwiched here by two.
It's all right,
units.
man. You're Cuban. We get it.
That's
it's
true.
all right.
That's true.
It's
Yeah, I get all the beautiful
You're
women
Little
down here, my wife.
Havana.
There you go. There you go. Here I am.
That should be your nickname, Little Havana.
Yeah. I know Rant and Row kind of stuck because I'm always
Yeah,
ranting
it
about
did.
everything. All right, we're gonna do the outfield now, guys. I'm gonna get
Oh, good
who's
times.
is Rick, is it right?
No, I don't know. I think it's who went first right
Oh,
there.
it's
I
my
can't-
I
turn
went
now.
last.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's my
So-
turn now, right? No,
okay.
who went last?
Mike did.
I did.
Okay, so then you go first then.
Mike goes first, and then you, Ralph.
Go for it. Outfield.
Okay, I got 6 outfielders. First, you got to go for the greatest player of all time in my book, Babe Ruth. This guy was not only a great pitcher, not only changed the game, not only hit 714 home runs, had incredible RBIs, and a 342 average, but he was a great fielder, and people ignore that. He had a wonderful fielding percentage.
Mhm.
He was an all-around player, except he didn't steal bases. Big deal. He was incredible.
Well, he didn't have to steal bases.
He didn't have to, exactly. He hit RBIs.
You know what's crazy? He actually did have 125 in his career.
Is that right? You
Yes,
see,
For him, that's great.
for him, that's great. Yeah,
God almighty.
2 would have been great for
Yeah,
him.
that's right. That's right.
Number 2, I have Willie Mays. This guy he was close to me, is close to being the GOAT, but he isn't. He's a second outfielder. 660 home runs. He had 2 of his best years in the military. He didn't have a great average. It was 302 lifetime. That's very good. But he had the 3,000 hit club, 12 gold gloves. He was like Brooks Robinson. He was like Ozzie Smith. And he was a great base runner. Third is not somebody who you're going to like, Ralph, because he's not a good example at all. He's a horrible person. He was a racist, a misogynist, and he spiked people with his cleats.
I know who you're talking about. I know
who
who you're
he
talking
was
about. I know
him
you're talking
wearing a
about.
jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
This
Yeah.
guy had a 3, but you can't take away from his accomplishments.
No.
You know
He
him.
had over 4,000 hits. He had 367 lifetime. He was an incredible base stealer. He did everything. He was a great. If he was playing 20 years later, he would know how to hit home runs. He's one of the best.
Yeah.
And here's another player.
Wait, mention the
Ted
name.
Williams.
Mention the name because you didn't mention the name.
Ty Cobb, I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did
yeah,
you say? Oh, he
yeah.
did. I'm sorry, I
Yep,
didn't hear you.
Yep, that's all right.
Did you know he later became a member of the KKK?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But the way he was so dirty on the field too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how he played. He was
Yeah.
just a vicious, win at any cost kind of guy. I think it's not our proudest player in Detroit history, but as far as his numbers, like Mike said, you can't deny it. I mean,
Can't deny
he
it.
had over 800 steals too, and Mike was talking about that. So
Yeah. All right, so Mike, we lost your audio there for a second. We lost
I
your
want to
audio.
give the third or fourth
All right.
pick.
Yeah, go,
Yeah, my
no,
internet was on my internet.
okay, no,
I'll go with my
you
fourth
you
pick.
chose 2. You got 4 more left.
No,
So-
3. Ruth Mays and Cobb.
Cobb.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
3. Okay,
yeah,
you're-
yep.
okay,
He's
go
got
ahead.
3
Three
left.
more
Yep.
left. Ted Williams
Okay. You froze up again.
Yeah, he's frozen.
knows anybody. I'm talking to everybody out there. There's a better hitter than Babe Ruth or Ted Williams. Walk the other way. They don't know what they're talking about. 344 lifetime.
Mhm.
He had over 500 home runs. He was by far the greatest hitter of all time. I don't care if he wasn't the greatest fielder or the greatest base runner. He was a hit. He had a science when he hit the ball, and 4 of those years were spent in the military.
Yeah, I agree.
One guy who's Dan Musical's on my list. He had all the great stats you said. He did play outfield and he played first, so that's fair. He had 1,815 hits at home, 1,815 hits on the road. He was a power hitter. He was hitting for base. Stan Man was the greatest Cardinal to ever play. And I got to put Hank Aaron there. I don't have Ricky Henderson, who I would start the team with. I don't have Joe DiMaggio, but I have Hank Aaron because he was a great base runner as well as the home run king and the 3,700 hits he had. But they caught one manager knew how to stop him, and he stopped doing that. So I have Ruth, Mays, Cobb, Williams, Aaron, and Musial.
Excellent. Excellent.
Great choices. Yeah. I hope you held on to that DH spot. You need a couple of DHs. You understand that, right?
I have them.
You do. Okay.
He's got them.
All right. Okay. Rickster, what do you got?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a bunch of copies on exactly what you just said. Great minds think alike, literally. I mean, the only variation from what he's got is Barry Bonds for me, who I started the team with. But I wanted to throw some other names in there that I know will appreciate. Tony Gwynn, I wanted to throw out there.
Wow, I had forgotten about Tony Gwynn.
Because when he just talked about the greatest hitters, I'll put him up there with those two. That man could hit anywhere, everywhere. They named a side of a field, that hole between third and short, as a left-handed hitter. That's how good of a backside hitter he was.
Yeah.
The Gwynn 5, that 5.5 hole, I guess you'd call it. So I wanted to throw his name out there too, because I just loved watching that guy play too.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Did you just list your 6, or do you have your
I can
list
list them. I can list them.
No. But do you have more than 6 listed?
No, I really had 6 with K-Line. I was throwing out there too.
Okay.
He was my and one. Gwynn and K-Line were my 2 and ones. Okay. Kirby Puckett's a great name too to throw out there that we forget about in the 80s that hit over 300.
Yes.
But yeah, mine are Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, Ted Williams. I mean,
whoa, guys. Okay. All right. That's it. You done?
I'm done, man. I threw out a couple names for you.
Yeah, you did. You did. Let me mention some names that we haven't even mentioned yet. You mentioned, of course, Ricky Henderson, a guy I can't stand, but you look at his stats, and the guy's incredible. Is incredible. Manny Ramirez, his stats were incredible.
Manny was great.
Manny was good. Tim Raines.
Loved Raines.
You're looking for a leadoff hitter. I mean, the guy was just incredible. Willie Stargell, guys. You left Willie Stargell. Papa. How can you leave? You got to at least mention him. Willie Stargell. You all mentioned Ty Cobb. Joe DiMaggio. Did anybody mention Joe DiMaggio?
He didn't make our list.
Joe DiMaggio.
That shows how great so many outfielders were.
That's true.
That's how good this list is. Yeah.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I put the name down here, Mike Trout. He hasn't been around, I think, long enough. He's been around what?
You got to give him a little more time.
Got to give him about 5 more years, but you know what? That's a really good one, because I think he makes that list if he continues on pace.
I have 2 others I want to mention: Ken Griffey and Roberto Clemente. Great all-round player.
Oh, Clemente's phenomenal.
You burst my
because he was getting ready to go there. I knew that was coming. That was a given. Look, he got so mad. It was like somebody just kicked his dog. That was terrible.
And I don't have a dog.
I know.
Anyway, the imaginary dog there.
I know. Right. Man. So here are my choices, real quick. Hank Aaron. Mickey Mantle guy. How the hell can you?
Because it doesn't make this list.
I'll tell you why. It's an interesting choice. I want to comment on this. It's sort of like asking if I put Gale Sayers on the list of football for best running backs. He got so injured and so banged up. I put him in a separate category.
Gotcha.
And he could have been better than any of them. I agree. But he was so injured, had such limited time. It's something we'll never know.
That's a great point.
But see, here's the deal on this. This is my Joe Biden impersonation. Here's the deal. Back then, there was no DH. There's a DH now. So I could take Mickey, play him maybe once or twice a week with his knees all bandaged up and shit. And then for most of the time, I'd put him at DH. You want this guy in the middle of your lineup or not? The guy was a switch hitter. He could hit the shit out of the ball, whether lefty or righty. Do you agree with me, Rick? The guy was incredible.
I agree. The problem is who do you kick off of our list?
No. Because remember, you got 2 DHs, so you can rotate.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Use him as a DH. I got you. Yeah. That's a good call.
Okay. So anyway, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, of course. I mean, if you leave Willie Mays out of the conversation, it's like there's something wrong with your brain. Yes. I'll tell you who to me was the greatest right fielder of all time, and I know Rick, you're going to have a problem with this. Roberto Clemente.
Nope, 12 gold gloves. How can you say?
Yeah, and he could
that he's not. I mean, if he wouldn't have died in that plane wreck, are you kidding me? we'd probably be talking about him.
Well, and I'm talking about it because the guy, his arm was second to none. The guy could hit to all fields. He was a machine, and he's a great base runner, smart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The guy was absolutely great. I got Ken Griffey Jr.
Yes. God, he was so much fun to look at and
Oh
watch.
my God.
Should have never left Seattle.
Nope.
He should have never left Seattle. You're absolutely right. And I got a choice here that I put in here. It's touch and go, but I would put this guy that I'm going to mention now before Barry Bonds and Pete Rose. I'm biased simply because of the steroids and the gambling situation and all that crap. You know, Pete Rose to me was one of the greatest ball players all around, you know, just a hitter. But here's a name you haven't mentioned. Karl Yasrevsky.
Yeah.
Prowler, great pick.
Yep.
Dude, this guy could do it all. He was a gentleman on the field.
Too.
That's right. Yes. In his 40s. You know, the one thing I remember about him is the pop-up that he hit. You remember pop-up that he hit as the last out of that famous 78, the Bucky Dent game where Bucky Dent hits that 3-run homer.
Yes, in that extra game that extra represented the L.
He hit the last out. He popped out to third base. Well, who was the third baseman? Craig Nettles for the Yankees.
Craig Nettles, I remember.
Craig Nettles. I'll never forget when he grabbed that. I mean, it was like, you know, and Yastrzemski when you look at the reruns, you could say he just put his head down, and it was like, oh my God, what, you know, because everybody was banking on old Yaz, one of the great hitters of all time. So anyway, and I left somebody out that I put in here, Ichiro Suzuki.
Oh, one of the best hitters out there.
And just think about this.
Yep.
He could have had 4,000 hits if he would have played his whole career here. I think he would have.
Yeah.
And he was a great defensive player. He was the Pete Rose and Ty Cobb of our time.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right about that. Yep. And a great clubhouse guy. Nobody hated that man. He was a good guy. Good teammate.
And what an arm. An arm.
Yeah.
This guy against the fence, he would throw people out at home plate, tag it up on third. The guy was incredible.
Well, that kind of reminds me of somebody that we left off the list that's current is Yasiel Puig. If he stays around, that dude's arm is second to none.
Himself, though. He never really proved himself to his potential.
His arm is ridiculous, though. When he threw that guy out from the wall and left on that foul ball.
I remember that.
On the fly.
Yeah, incredible
I said, are you kidding me?
I predict that he'll never be one of the great ones because of his attitude.
Head case.
The guy's crazy. The guy's crazy. We don't want
what it is.
Okay, so here we go. DH. All right, here are my two DH. Remember, I rotate these outfielders with the DH. So I left the two Babe Ruth. I left him out. I got him as a DH. I can put him in the outfield anytime I want. And I've got the greatest hitter that has ever played the game of baseball, Ted Williams. I don't think there's been a better hitter, and that's saying a lot, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a better hitter. I read a story about him where he was interviewed. He actually, I'm not sure if this is true, but he said when the pitcher released the ball, he could see the stitching on the ball, the rotation. He could, and by the way, he lost 2 or 3 years, Mike, during the war?
4.
Yeah.
4 years. Can you imagine if this guy would have played those 4 years in the prime of his career? Nobody would even come close to this guy.
Yeah. Williams was the first one to talk about the stitching. Gwynn said the same thing, by the way.
Did he? Okay,
Tony Gwynn said that many a times that he can read the stitching.
By the way, this was such a sophisticated list. None of us had Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, no kidding.
I did. I've got him on my list.
He had Joe D.
No. Okay, but you see, to me, Ted Williams is the greatest hitter of all time. Even
I don't think anybody's going to argue that out of us three. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so that's those are my 2 DH. Mike, on to you.
I'm going to pick 2 players who have proven to be great DHs because that's the only way I know they could handle that position.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph will hate me for this, but David Ortiz.
Yep.
This man should have been the MVP one year as a designated hitter, but they give it to Alex Rodriguez because they're not used to giving it to DHs. But he had 53 home runs that year. He has about 500 about. He's a leader on his team. He can play first base. I put him as number 1.
Nice.
Paul Mahler, went to the Hall of Fame as a DHer, so I really feel comfortable putting him as my number 2 pick. I know Edgar Martinez was great. I know that many others were great.
Yep.
But I think Malter and Ortiz and Big Papi are the two I'll go for.
Let me give you some stats on David Ortiz.
Yeah.
Lifetime 286 hitter, 2,400 hits, 525 home runs, and 1,713 RBI. The guy was a monster. There's no doubt about it. He was a monster.
Yeah.
I don't like him, but this is, I mean, if I had to choose a team, I would want him on my team because I think he's good in the clubhouse. Everybody loved him. Everybody loved Big Papi. Am I right, or did I miss something here?
Everybody loved him. People in this
right.
native country of Dominican Republic worship.
Yeah.
Now, here's the question, though. Since we're on that subject, and since he just got put in over the two roid users, there's still a cloud over him on whether or not he did. The PED question has always been surrounding him because it never was proven, is what they said.
I remember that.
Okay.
So why do you think? Why do you think?
I think there's no doubt he did. That's my personal opinion.
No, but why do you think they overlooked it, Rick?
I have no idea. They couldn't prove it, is what they said. Whatever PED he was using, the clear or the cream, whatever the hell they want to say. Remember, this is the day when Jose Canseco got blackballed by even mentioning it, and everybody called him an asshole and a conspiracy theorist and get out of baseball, right? That he had seen Mark do it, he'd seen people do it, and I felt so bad for that dude, even though he's cocky and arrogant. He didn't deserve that. I mean, he got blackballed from baseball, and he was 100% right by the end of it all. So anyways, but I love Papi. I'm not bashing Papi at all. I just think there's a stigma, there's a cloud right now because the other two didn't get in and he got in. And by the way, Clemens never needed to use it. That was stupidity on his part. These pitchers just do it for longevity. Not
didn't
because
he deny that? Didn't Clemens deny that? I mean, he's denied it. They never had any proof on Clemens.
No, I think they had proof on him. It was Papi they were looking for. The other one was if he would have just admitted it, like what's his name did from the Musina, wasn't it? Was it Musina or who?
No, not Musina. No, not
who
Musina.
was the Yankees pitcher that admitted it?
Pettit. Andy Pettit.
That's it. Yeah, Pettit. Yeah. If he would have done that, people forgive. You know, it's the ones that keep denying it and they get proven guilty that people hate.
Listen, it's obvious, really, and I say this seriously, that you guys are much more into this than me. I've been away from baseball for a long time. Let me ask you about Rafael Palmero. Did they ever have anything on him as far as steroids?
I believe they did, didn't they, Mike? Yeah.
Did they, Mike?
And I think he came clean too at the end of it too.
What a great hitter. That guy.
Oh, he was too. Again, we're talking lefties.
Mark McGwire.
Yeah, and Mark McGwire.
Yeah. I think Mark McGwire was very one-dimensional. Palmero was he was a great all-around player. He was a great
totally
defensive.
agree.
Yeah.
He hit for average too. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we just did the DH.
Yep. One more. I got to go. In his footsteps, David Ortiz and Frank Thomas. I have Big Hurt on there too as one.
Good for you.
You know, career 301 hitter, 520 home runs, 2,468 hits, which is surprising. You know, people think about DHs being 270 hitters, but they hit bombs all day. Yeah. No, this guy was a 300 career hitter. Yeah. I mean, the hurt. And by the way, I will never let my son watch his swing because if you see his back foot, that is absolutely not what you ever want to do. But when you're 260 pounds and you can swing like that, man, you can do whatever the hell you want. It's like Jim Furyk's golf swing. Why the hell correct it?
That's true.
So the two I like in this spot, Edgar Martinez and Thomas. I love Ortiz, but everybody goes with Ortiz, and I'm going to go with those two.
What two? You confused me here. Say those.
Edgar Martinez from Seattle, who one of the best clutch hitters I've ever seen in my lifetime. Okay. And Big Hurt, Frank Thomas.
Good choices. Excellent. Okay, guys. Now we're getting down to the home stretch. Starting pitchers now, a rotation of 5. You can stretch it to 6 if you want because it's tough. 5 and 2 relievers. And 2 relievers. Okay. So, Rick, you were last. You go first.
All right. Here we go. Number 1 on my list is Walter Johnson. 417 career wins, ERA 2.17, had over 3,500 strikeouts. Just numbers that are insane. I mean, obviously he played in the 1913 era and a little before then. Second, and this is the one that I make my son watch right now because he was part of a duo that were so good because they were cerebral pitchers. And I try to get my son to be a cerebral pitcher. He's not pitching in the 90s yet. You have got to be a cerebral guy. Greg Maddox, one of the best that never touched 90 on a fastball in his life, him and Glavine. Those two as a tandem were phenomenal. Greg Maddox has 355 wins, ERA of 3.16, 3,371 Ks with never touching 90 miles an hour. That's insane. Okay, the next one is the big unit, Mr. Randy Johnson at 6'10", coming off a mound, probably ending up about 40 feet from you, throwing 100 miles an hour. Go ahead, Ralph. You can face that because I'm not facing that.
I'm not facing that shit. Let me ask you, Walter Johnson, he was a righty. Was he a righty?
Yes.
He was a righty.
Yes.
Okay. And your second choice was Maddox. He's a righty.
He's a righty as well. Yep. Okay. Johnson's
and
lefty.
Johnson is a lefty. Okay. So you got two righties and a lefty. Okay.
Yep. He has 303 wins, 3.29 ERA, but the Ks, 4,875 strikeouts. That's insane. Number 4, another most hated Ralph player, Pedro Martinez. Pedro, 219 and 100 career in his record, ERA 2.93 in the American League. Sub 3 is insane in the American League, period. And the strikeouts 3,154. Now, number 5, you guys are going to laugh at, and he's not done with his career. That's why I'm putting him on here. Justin Verlander. All right. He's one of 12. Did you know there's a triple crown for pitchers, Ralph? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. He's one of 12 from the American League to ever have won it. He won it back in 2011. His numbers right now, he's 226 and 129, his record. With Detroit, that's a hell of a job by him because they had a decent team at one point and then they kind of dissolved. And then he goes on to Houston, and the rest is kind of history. And now he's out of Houston. But ERA 3.33, and he's got over 3,000 strikeouts already. He's probably got a good 5 years left on his career, maybe 6. He is one of the most insane pitchers because I've never seen a pitcher get stronger as a game continues. When you watched him in Detroit, he'd start with a 93 mile an hour fastball, 94. By the 8th inning, he was touching 100. That's insane.
Yeah.
So those are my 5. You want the 2 closers now?
No.
Okay.
No, let's move on. You can pick a 6th if you like.
Nope, I'm good. I like those 5. Yep.
All right, Mike, what say ye?
I have the GOAT of all pitchers is the only one he and I have on the same list, Walter Johnson. He was the Nolan Ryan of his time with 4,000 something strikeouts. He had an ERA of 2.16 or 2.14. It was really low. He was also played for one of the worst teams in baseball, the Washington Senators, and eventually won a championship for them. The line they used to use was first in war, first in peace, last in the American League. But he was number 1 shutouts. He is the greatest pitcher of all time. Wow. Christie Matthewson from back then is my number 2 pick. His statistics were almost identical to Johnson's, just a little less.
What years did he play, Mike? Do you remember? What
Walter Johnson played about 1907, 1915. Christie Matthewson as well.
Okay.
And Christie Matthewson was almost like Walter Johnson's clone. He had very similar numbers. If you said Christie Matthewson was better, I can't argue with him. But I think Walter Johnson takes the cake for all he did and all the games he had were incredible. I have a left-handed pitcher, 3rd, Sandy Kofax. Now, Sandy Kofax had a slightly shortened career. It wasn't too bad. It was sort of like Pedro Martinez. The numbers were pretty similar.
12 years.
But he had a curveball that went off the table. He had 5 no-hitters. He had a World Series record of .084. And by the way, there was a real squeaky clean guy. If you want someone who's a role model for your kids, there's a good one. And he also had a great fastball. I will give it him the 3rd pick. 4th, the guy they named the award after, Cy Young. His 511 wins will never be surpassed. That is the hardest record in sports ever to break. He also set the standard with incredible strikeouts. He didn't have the ERA that Mathewson or Kofax, by the way, had a 2.85 or something ERA.
2.75.
2.75.
Right.
But I think that Cy Young stands for himself. My number 5 was hard. There were a lot of people I considered. I went for the ERA, Bob Gibson.
Oh, I'm glad you threw him in.
Bob Gibson, 1968, had an ERA of 1.12. He had, I think he had a lower ERA than Sandy Kofax did, or around the same. He was an intimidating pitcher. He was a winner. He did whatever it takes to win. And I feel a little bad. I mean, I'm glad I like Rick's pick of Greg Maddox because he was also a great defensive player. But I think Gibson was as well. Those are my 5 picks. You had. They're just to recap them: Walter Johnson, Christie Matthewson, Sandy Kofax, Cy Young, and Bob Gibson.
All right. Great list. No, great list. I'll tell you what, my beef with Walter Johnson and Christie Matthewson is the fact they played in the dead ball era.
Yeah.
Well, you have to take Babe Ruth out or Ty Cobb.
No. When was the dead ball era? Because
the teens. Babe Ruth pitched with them, by the way, did very well, by the way. I'm considering him.
I had it.
And Ty Cobb played the dead ball era. While Rogers Hornsby and Honus Wagner did. I mean,
I like where you're going, Ralph, because 3 of mine were in the steroid era. Remember that.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out because it just influences me, you know, and Babe Ruth, but Babe Ruth, he started his career. The dead ball era was what, 1900 to what, 1920 or 19, something like that. I don't remember.
Seems about right.
I can't find it.
About 20, 25 years.
Yeah. So Babe Ruth, but you see, it speaks in favor of Babe Ruth. If Babe Ruth played in the dead ball era and he hit the shit out of the ball and the ball was dead.
I think Mike's talking more when he pitched.
When Ruth
pitched.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's not known as a pitcher.
No, he's not. A lot of people are shocked when they hear that, actually. Yeah.
By the way, he used to defeat Walter Johnson when he pitched against him.
All right. This was the toughest choice for me. I'll go through them. If I had, well, let me ask you guys, if you had to win one game, who would you put out there on the mound?
That's crazy. That's a great great question. That is a great question. I mean, he's going to say, and I'm looking at guys that I grew up on and are still current because for me right now, it'd be like Scherzer for me because I've seen him bulldog.
Okay.
The best pitcher today.
Yeah. I'd take Scherzer right now.
Okay. Let me tell you who I would put out there. My number 1 pick on any given day, in any circumstances, the one guy that I want out there, Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
He didn't give a crap if his grandmother was hitting. If he had to hit her in the back, this guy was afraid of nobody. I mean, his intensity was just off the charts. To me, if I had to pick one guy, that would be it. I have on my list, and after him, I have Sandy Kofax. I believe is one of the great left-handers of all time. He just retired early. Mike, he just decided to retire. He wasn't hurt or anything, was he, Mike? Do you remember? I mean, does that ring a bell? No. I think we lost Mike there for a second. So we'll wait until his connection.
He's back.
It's back.
Okay, Mike. Do you guys, any of you remember why Sandy Kofax just retired after 12 seasons?
I don't, but
I do.
I think he had an injury. I think it was an injury.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that he just got tired of it. He got tired.
He might have. I mean, that happens. Yeah. When you stop enjoying it, it becomes a job.
If he would have stuck around, I think he would have been probably the greatest pitcher of all time, at least in his, from his era on.
I agree with you. I think he was the best pitcher of all time.
Actually, Mike's 100% right. Severe arthritis.
There you go. Oh, it was an injury, severe arthritis. Look at that. Wow, man. Wow, what a shame. All right, so I've got here's a controversial pick. I've got Roger Clemens. Now, forgetting the steroids for a second, this guy, 354 wins, 4,672, strikeouts. He's like borderline. I've got Tom Seaver. I think we all forgot about
pick. Tom. Perfect Tom, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to leave one guy out, it'd probably be Roger Clemens because of the steroids, but Tom Seaver was just. And then you guys forgot, you mentioned Reggie Johnson, but I'm going to give you 2 names that you're going to say, how the hell did I miss these guys? Nolan Ryan and Steve Carlton.
Steve Carlton, I had put above Ryan. Ryan's a questionable pick. He was a great player. I'm taking nothing away from him.
Right.
But he never won a Cy Young. His winning record was pretty much even. He was a strikeout king.
Yeah.
I don't put him in the top 5, maybe late in the top 10, but Steve Carlton's an awesome pick. He was up there with Maddox and Kofax and Gibson.
I don't put much stock in Cy Youngs and MVPs because they're chosen by the writers. And I think there's always politics involved in that crap. You see some of these sometimes, how the hell was that guy not MVP?
Right.
You see his stats, they're like off the wall, and then somebody else is chosen. So I go a lot by statistics. And when I watched him, the way he played the game, his intensity and his desire to win and stuff like that. So, Steve Carlton, somebody else, let me see, you forgot to mention, and I got him on my list here, Curt Schilling. If you read oh my God, you talk about having a set on you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't believe you even mentioned it.
Yeah, but I like the guy. You know why I like? Let me tell you, I like guys. With they got a pair on him. I mean, this guy. Remember the bloody sock game?
Pair. Yep.
This guy, he was afraid of no one. He was like he was the Bob Gibson of his era. He was afraid of no one.
Mike, and he's still afraid of no one. If you've ever heard him talk politics, by the way,
I have, and let's not get into that.
I have.
I'm not.
Bob Feller was one I was considering too. By the way,
Bob Feller. That's another one I wasn't on.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So I got Tom Glavine. How about Jim Palmer? I mean,
260.
Great pick.
Thank you. That's a great Oriole.
Oh my God. Didn't have that many
ERA
strikeouts.
of 270 or something.
Yeah. ERA was 268.
Yep, wasn't better. 2%
That's
better. Jim Palmer. Yeah. So 286. I'm sorry. Okay, so those are the starting pitchers. Okay, now we'll go right into quickly to the relief pitchers. I was last, so I'm going to start.
You're last. Yep.
Yeah, here we go. This is no contest.
It's a no-brainer, guys.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If you got a problem with this, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Mariano Rivera, the greatest of all time, not even close. And he did it with one pitch. How the hell does that happen? The cutter. Everybody knew it was coming, and nobody could hit the damn thing. And I remember the game. Who was it that hit that they won the Arizona Diamondbacks beat him, that little clunker that he hit above shortstop. Mm-hmm. I think they broke who was it that hit the
Luis Gonzalez, who played for the Tigers and was traded to Arizona. Yes.
He almost broke his bat and he hit a little clunker over second base and they win the World Series.
Yep.
And this guy was never flustered on the mound. He was incredible. Now, second pick, here's just the list. There's Trevor Hoffman, Rich Gossage, Dennis Eckersley, John Franco. John Franco was probably one of the two best left-handed relief pitchers of all time.
Agreed.
But I went with Billy Wagner as my second choice. So I got Rivera and Billy Wagner. Mike, back to you.
Rivera is the obvious choice for anybody unless you are just playing devil's advocate or Yankee.
Right. Yeah.
This guy was actually on the list of considered by some the best Yankee of all time, along with Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, and Mantle. He made games. He was as valuable as many starting pitchers were. I'm going to say Dennis Eckersley is my second pick. It was a relief when those A's with Sal Bando, Reggie Jackson, many others had Dennis Eckersley wind up the game. They knew they won it. I know Trevor Hoffman's great. I love Goose Gossage. Point was a kid when he went to San Diego back San Diego, but I put Eckersley as my number 2 choice.
Do you remember how many years he put in as a reliever? Because he was a starting pitcher, was he not?
He was for a few years. I don't remember the exact number, but I remember he was an incredible reliever.
Yes, he was.
He was good. All right, Rick, wrap it up, baby.
Hey, man, this is kind of like the catching call. I mean, if you don't have him as number 1, then you don't know baseball. And by the way, everybody knew it was coming, but that pitch moved so much. He shattered so many right-hand hitters' bats from that thing cutting in on their hands. Yeah. It was insane. So it's a great pitch. He's just a location guy. He was a great guy. Second, and you guys keep throwing out, I hate going last because you've already thrown out all the names. Here's a name for Mike, though, that he may remember this guy, Lee Smith. Remember that man?
Oh, I forgot about Lee Smith.
Great player. Cubs. Great choice.
Yeah.
Chicago Cubs. Yeah. I grew up in the 80s and I moved to Chicago for a little bit, so I got to see him, and I just think he's underrated. What a great pitcher. 2 pitch outs. You can throw out several names lately.
Eric Gagne.
Yes.
Cy Young Award winner.
Yep. Rodney. If you remember Rodney with the change.
Fernando Rodney.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring up Lee Smith because he's probably a top 10 reliever, not a top 2. But I think he was incredible back in the 80s. So,
well, I'm glad you brought that up, Rick, because I had totally forgotten about him. And I'm a Cardinals fan, so I don't know.
I mean, you remember Sandberg, you remember Lake, Jody Lake behind the dish. The Cubs were fun to watch back then.
Yeah, I used to love to watch the Cardinals. You know who was the guy I used to love to watch? Mike, you might remember this. Al Hrabosky.
Oh my gosh, Mad Hungarian.
Oh,
yes. Yes.
You know, the way he found that ball.
The
it would be
reliever,
like-
Billy
he
McGee
would
was
go
one
He
nuts.
just
too.
freaked
He
people
wanted to
out.
kill you and your
And
family.
of course,
at
Ozzy
that
Smith.
point.
Tom Herr was pretty good.
Who?
Yes.
Tom Herr.
Oh, Tommy Herr.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
man. Yeah, there's so many great players. It's so tough.
There
Okay,
really is.
here's the last question before we leave. Pick your manager. Mike, you first.
I'm going to take Joe McCarthy, the manager of the Yankees, with Tony La Russa in a close second. But Joe McCarthy was the architect of the greatest team of all time, the 1927 Yankees.
Mm.
And he had the highest winning percentage. It was 606, I think it was, of any manager. He had a brilliant mind. He had a strategy for the game. I love Bobby Cox, too. I think he's up there. I think Whitey Herzog. I think it was Chasey Stengel. It was a team more than him. Walt Weiss built the team. I like Joe McCarthy.
I like that. Rick?
Mine's obvious. You know who I'm going with. And he took two teams in two different leagues to World Series titles. Sparky Anderson.
Sparky Anderson.
People would run through walls for that man. He was a leader. He was a dad. He was a friend. He was everything. So
Yeah.
Sparky Anderson for me.
Good choice. I would choose Earl Weaver. You know why? Because he was nuts. He was crazy.
Love him. He was nuts.
He was nuts.
I like to see him and Bobby Cox go after each other.
Wouldn't that
I
be
would
great?
love to
No,
see
or him.
those two,
Remember him and
yes.
Billy Martin when they went at it? I mean,
Oh my God, Billy Martin. Oh
that was
my
awesome,
God.
dude. That was awesome.
Dude, those are so awesome.
For entertainment purposes. Oh man. So listen, closing comments. Mike, you're the guest. You're first. Do you have anything to say before we leave?
Yes, I do. I think baseball is the easiest sport to compare different eras. I'm not saying it's perfect at it. In football, you can't compare the teams like the 72 Dolphins or the 85 Bears to today's teams. They die, they're undersized. Basketball, Will Chamberlain would never score 100 points in hell 30 years later. But in baseball, you can compare Babe Ruth to Albert Pujols, and it's the fun of all this. And I think that's what makes this one of the sports of the all-time great special in baseball, because the other sports you have to judge them strictly for their time.
Yeah.
And my website to give out, by the way,
Go ahead.
is Mike Essen, radioshow.com. And you can find apparel, past shows, lists of some great guests I've had, including Ted Nugent, Rick Scott, and Oliver North, and Abby Johnson, and many others. And you could also want to be on my show. You could request for me to debate or request for me to speak. Thank you so much, Ralph and Rick. You can't imagine how much you made my Wednesday night.
Oh,
my
Mike,
pleasure,
you're a
Mike.
blast, man.
Rick's there.
Yes. The hardest thing to teach a kid in baseball, because I don't think Mike knows this, but my son's playing in high school right now, and he started as a freshman last year, on varsity, Mike. So he's pretty solid. It's the only sport where you can fail and be a Hall of Famer. I mean, a 300 average gets you into the Hall, and you're hitting 1 out of 3.5 times for safety. It's a sweet science. It's beautiful. I love the game. 110%. I agree with Mike that you can compare, because the equipment hasn't changed. It's still using the same damn wood. It's not like the aluminum bats that you're seeing in college and all that stuff. The balls have changed. Yes, truth. But hey, man, it's still America's pastime in my book. I love it. It was a blast to meet Mike. This was just
Likewise, Rick.
This is just a blast. I love this show. I love everything you've done for me, Ralph. Let's keep it rolling.
I haven't done anything, dude. All I've done is I bring people together, and I love being with you guys. This is just awesome. I'll tell you, in my view, baseball is the most beautiful game that's ever been invented. How the hell they came up with 90 feet between those bases, and you see these bang, bang plays in shortstop. I mean, how do they do that? The 60 feet, 6 inches from the mound to home plate. I love baseball because it's so cerebral. And you know what I love most about baseball, rather than going to a football, and I've been to football, hockey games, is the fact that you can sit there and enjoy the game in a stadium, and you have time to talk and to chat between hitters, right? You get a chance to enjoy your family and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden something happens and everybody gets up, it's that pause. I love that easy going. I remember going to all these games. I've been to St. Louis Stadium. I've been to Three Rivers. I've been to River Runs. I've been to all these ballparks, and I used to soak it in. Have you guys ever been to Busch Stadium, the old Busch Stadium?
I have not.
Busch Stadium, no. In Kansas City, I went to their park, though.
Awesome.
Coffee.
I remember I was a kid when I walked into Busch Stadium and I walked in with my dad and I first real ballpark. And I went up that ramp and when I got to the top, I saw that majestic green grass. So it was just, to me, it was like nothing else existed at that moment. It's just so beautiful. It's just gorgeous. So I invite all parents, don't take this so seriously. If your kid's got talent, just groom them. Let them have fun with this. Baseball is supposed to be fun, and I think today, guys, I don't know if you agree, they've taken a lot of the fun out of the baseball because of all this money junk and all this steroids and all this. It's got to be fun, right? Am I wrong, or isn't baseball?
No, you're not at all.
No, it's becoming a
you got to
year-round
make
job.
comparisons. Sorry, Rick.
No, you're good.
Between now and the 80s, when we grew, when all of us, when me and Rick grew up,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't talk about steroids. We didn't know their political views.
Yeah.
We didn't know about
Exactly.
kneeling for the flag. I mean, it was all for the love of the game.
Yeah. Billy Chapel. That's
I
right.
was really hard. I remember how disheartened I was when Reggie Jackson left the Yankees, and I'm over it now. It wasn't traumatized my childhood, but that's more important to me than what some schmuck is dating or anything like that.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm with you,
And
man.
they trivialized it, but it's one of America's great because of baseball, not in spite of it. I think it's American history. It's what makes it a unique sport.
You guys are right on. So Rick, Billy Chapel, what was it that he said when he went on the mound?
Clear the mechanism.
You remember that, Mike?
Clear
Clear the
the
mechanism.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie? Just that one moment makes the whole movie.
Where everything, all the crowd turns into a blur because he's just zoning out.
He's in
Everything.
Yankee Stadium, right? He's in Yankee Stadium and they're going nuts and they're hating him.
Yeah.
Just clear the
That's because
mechanism.
that's what you guys do, man. You got terrible fans.
Oh, folks. Hey, listen, hit the like and subscribe buttons below. If you like this, ring the bell. You know the drill. Just do it because we love what we do and we want to bring joy to you. Get away from the politics just for a while. Come and join us. Email us if you want to
argue with us. Tell us what you didn't like today. What players we left off. I can't imagine we did because
I'm sure we did. I'm sure we did. I'm sure we
Okay.
did. Yeah, I'm sure we did, Rick. I'm sure. But this is what this is all about. This is all about life, folks. Life is beautiful. It's beautiful. And part of that is sports, music, and a nice cold beer. It really is, folks. I'm not a drinker. I'll have a beer once in a while, but some of the greatest stories I've ever heard and some of the greatest friendships I've ever developed were over a cold glass of beer or a bottle of wine, whatever floats your boat.
That's right.
And so take some time to do that, and come and join us. If you have something to say, come. And this is all about telling your story. I always talk about how people nowadays, everybody has a story to tell. You want to tell yours. It doesn't have to be about sports. It can be about life. Right, Rick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, your story is excellent. You have an excellent story, and we're going to get to that one day. And Mike, I'm sure you have your story of all the challenges.
I told my story on my show one day. It took 30 minutes, and I continued afterwards. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
So we're going to have you back on, and you're going to tell your story because
absolutely,
I'd love to.
Yeah, someone out there needs to hear your story, Mike, and someone out there needs to hear your story, Rick. Because that's what it's all about. If you can help one person, that's what it's all about. So on behalf of Mike Essen and his great show, Tune In, and on behalf of Rick, the Vanilla Gorilla, I'm Rantin' Ralph, and you've been listening and watching Life, Sports, Music, and Beer, folks. Get back to us. God bless you. Take care. So what you think? Huh? How do we do as baseball general managers? I bet you disagreed more than agreed with a bunch of our picks. And if that's the case, well, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at the address below and give us your feedback. And if you want to come on our show and give us your picks, well, we'd be happy to have you. Just click on the link below and visit our website and fill out a short form, and we'll arrange to have you on as a guest. Until then, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below and ring that bell. Now, if you're a basketball, football, boxing, or a fan of any other sport, reach out to us or we'll schedule a general manager series for you and that sport. Don't forget to join us for our next episode where we'll be speaking not only with a huge baseball fan, but someone who will share with you 2 events that had a profound effect on his life. So make sure you share with your friends and loved ones. You never know. They just might hear that one thing that'll make a huge difference in their lives. Hope to see you soon.
On behalf of everyone from Life, Sports, Music, and Beer, we thank you for tuning in. If you've got that story to tell, comment below. Smash that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell so you can hear other amazing stories.